Alright, the last... Oh no, it's not the last part. You'll see what I mean. But we're doing another part of the Pokemon TCG Competitive Guide. So today we're going to be going over support Pokemon, um, we're going to be going over what impacts the metagame, and archetype over type. So, first up is support Pokemon. Of course, as usual, if you didn't see the first part, definitely go and see that, because you'll be kind of lost without it. But as I said in the last video, I'll be basically just be saying everything that I put on the slide. The slide is kind of like halfway my script, so anything I say on the slide, anything I say is probably going to be on the slide. So if you don't want to hear me talk and you just want to read what's on the slides, and you just want to skip through the video to absorb as much information as possible, definitely go ahead and do that. But anyways, just get right into it. First thing is, of course, support Pokemon. Support Pokemon are exactly as they sound. They are not there to attack. They're there to support the rest of the deck. Think of support Pokemon as like the medic on something like Overwatch or Team Fortress 2 or Team Fortress. They're basically like the healer. They're not really there to do a lot of damage. They're there to help the rest of the team. So, pretty solid. Example, and you'll see that support Pokemon usually go for a lot more, like a lot higher of a price. Probably the best example is Shaman EX. The full art version in particular, I'm pretty sure at its peak was about like $70 or $80, and the non-full art was about $60. So, support Pokemon definitely go for a lot of money, especially compared to a lot of other cards like Pikachu and Zekrom, because support Pokemon, they can go in pretty much any deck. So that's kind of the idea, at least, is that support Pokemon, they make any deck better no matter what they are in, or at least they make 90% of the decks they go in better. Sometimes a deck doesn't really want a support Pokemon, sometimes it doesn't really need it, but about 90 to 95% of decks need the staple support Pokemon, and you'll see that the Pokemon Company, they come out with these support Pokemon. They do it on purpose. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. They do it on purpose. They come out with these support Pokemon, and they know that it's going to make them a lot of money. And again, there's nothing really wrong with them doing that because they're a business still at the end, and they need to make money. And plus, having cards like this really makes the metagame a lot healthier. Of course, things like Jirachi at the moment, and that came out in Team Up, it's like $20 a piece. It's not $20 a piece anymore because the Pikachu and Zekrom League battle decks came out, so they are significantly cheaper. Shaman EX, of course, was like $60 a piece at its peak. Tapu Lele GX, same thing as Shaman, like $60 at its peak. Dedenne GX is about $30 a piece, little less now that the Trainer Toolkit is going to be coming out in about 5 days from when I'm recording this, so it's coming out on the 26th. So, and I'm recording this on the 21st of June, so yeah, about 5 days. So that's going to go down in price, but right now it is $30. And Crobat V, that'll come out in Darkness Ablaze. That's going, of course, probably going to be around $20 to $30 a piece. So that's support Pokemon, definitely really important. Some decks need more of them, some decks need less. It all just kind of depends on the kind of deck you're playing. Right now, the Dedenne GX, you only really need about like 1 or 2 of them in a deck. So I guess it doesn't get like that expensive. It's not like it gets into like the hundreds for support Pokemon. And Jirachi's kind of the same way, you know. Not even all decks don't really need Jirachi if it's fast enough on its own. So yeah, support Pokemon. Existing archetypes. So this is really what decides what decks are good. So how good a deck is can heavily depend on what other decks are good as well. Basically, from one deck's dominance, another card to combat it will arise. For example, Pikachu and Zekrom got so popular that Buzzwole from Forbidden Light got popular to counter it. So, and I know Pikachu and Zekrom isn't the most recent example of when this Buzzwole was used to counter cards. Sorry. Zoroark GX, of course, 210 HP. So a Sledgehammer, when they were at 4 prizes, would one-shot it, like, automatically. And since Zoroark GX is only doing 120 damage against things like Buzzwole, they would live on 10 HP, and you could Sledgehammer them again, because they'd still be stuck at 4 prizes. So cards will always become more popular to counter popular decks. And this kind of leads into like a second hand, like this card's bad because this card's too good. Again, Pikachu and Zekrom GX is so popular that fighting types are becoming popular. And because of that, Eternatus VMAX that's coming out in Darkness Ablaze isn't going to be as good because people are already playing fighting types to counter Pikachu and Zekrom. But then again, Pikarom was also able to counter through all those fighting type counters, so I think Eternatus VMAX is still going to be really good. So that's existing archetypes. It's a pretty simple concept. It's basically just using type matchups. Like even in VGC, some Pokemon get so popular that you play different types to counter that popular Pokemon. Archetype, not type. This one's helping you guys build your deck. And I understand that a lot of these, like, they don't really like fit into like the same mold. This is just like a bunch of different things that are going to help you guys in the competitive Pokemon scene without any real mold, like support Pokemon. It's just explaining what they do and why they're so important. And then it jumps like completely differently to why different things are so good, existing archetypes. So I understand it doesn't really have any rhyme or reason to it, but just try to keep up. I'm sure. I don't think it's that complicated. I don't think it is, at least. And here is archetype, not type. So anyone who's here went to their first tournament, most likely, and got destroyed. And when you build your first deck, usually what you try to do is say, hey, I like fire types. I have a few fire type Pokemon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a fire type deck. That's not how it works. So when you make it, so here, of course, when you make a deck, you don't, most of the time you don't base it off of a typing, but an archetype. An archetype is a deck concept, a type of deck, instead of a deck type. However, in some rare cases, types can become archetypes if they have enough support. This is a different kind of support than the other one I mentioned, because they're like support Pokemon, but then there's like type support. Think about Welder, which I do have a picture of Welder right here. It says attach up to 2 fire energy cards from your hand to one of your Pokemon. If you do, draw 3 cards. So this was a busted supporter. It was an amazing supporter because it made mediocre tag team cards like Reshizard. You know, Reshizard is an okay card. Outrage for a fire and a colorless, 30 damage, 10 more for each damage counter on it. It didn't do like a whole ton, but it was okay. And Flare Strike for 230 damage for 3 fire and a colorless. Usually, and you can't use Flare Strike during your next turn. That's not that good of an attack. That is a very mediocre attack. But with all the fire support that there is, you can start using Flare Strike as soon as turn 2 instead of like turn 4 or 5. So yeah. Since Welder helped all fire types, along with Heat Factory, Giant Hearth, Fiery Flint, Fire Crystal, all fire types got better, making the infamous Fire Box deck, or Welder Box. So basically, fire types just got so good that you can't really decide what fire type to use, right? Because it helps all of them. So just cram a lot of fire types into one deck, and you have one for each and every situation. And that's what a box deck is. It is a bunch of different Pokemon that really have nothing else to correlate with each other except for one thing, and that one thing kind of ties it all together to make it a deck. So this is a pretty quick video. We only have 3 slides instead of 4 like we did in the last video. But there's one last thing. Now we are done with the competitive Pokemon guide, except we're not. kind of. You'll see. So, in this kind of like guide as far as like what we're doing, no, this is not the last one. There are a lot of things to learn about the Pokemon trading card game, so I've decided to make this a series. It won't always be things like teaching people about competitive Pokemon like this, whether it be describing how different decks function. So, like when Eternatus comes out, I'll make a like why is Eternatus so good video, and like I'll dissect what's so good about it. Why is Dragapult so good? I'll make a video dissecting what's so good about it and why they win the way they do. Or a state of the Pokemon Union. So, this is an idea I had at like 11 o'clock at night when I was trying to sleep. Basically, it's going to be a series that I'll have like maybe like once a month, once every like two, maybe once every time a set comes out, so about once every 3 months. I'll make a state of the Pokemon Union. Sorry. Sitting in a comfy bed while I make this. So State of the Pokemon Union will basically just be saying, these decks are really good. I think these decks are going to be really, really good soon. These cards are really skyrocketing in price. These ones aren't. Basically everything State of the Union is, except this is Pokemon, so it's a State of the Pokemon Union instead of the State of the United States. So that is it for today. I know I could have probably went a little more depth over what I said, but I'm sure that you all can figure it out. You guys are a bunch of smart people, and I'm not. So, yeah. So support Pokemon, always play them. Existing archetypes, always counter them. And always play archetypes and not types unless it's a box deck. This is River from the Portland City Gym, signing off.